Hey, thank you very much, Dom. I'm here with Huhi in the mid lane. CLG have now locked in playoffs. You actually expressed that you didn't know that coming into this one, so you're now guaranteed to be in playoffs. How's that feel?
It feels pretty good because now we're like secured in playoff, and the only thing we wanted from the like regular split is going into this playoff. Because in playoff, like in best of five, I think we'll perform better than what we do usually.
So then talk to me about sort of playoff seeding then, because right now you sit kind of in fourth place. You hold the head-to-head over Liquid. Cloud9's one match win ahead of you. Envy and Apex could come up into sixth, maybe even dethrone you down a little bit. So talk to me about the importance of your last two matches. How much does playoff seeding actually matter for you?
Uh, I'll say the seeding doesn't really matter for us because like no matter who we will play the hard opponents because we don't have the seeding this time, like the first seed and second seed.
Right.
So we do have to play C9 or Team Liquid, which is pretty hard opponents. So we don't really care who will we face. We are just like trying to improve on ourselves.
And you feel confident about those matches going up against probably Cloud9 or Liquid?
Yeah, for sure.
So then talk to me about coming into the semifinals then, because TSM and Immortals have been hot the entire split long. You haven't had a chance to beat them yet as well. So when you come down to the top four, what's it going to be like kind of getting ready for these sort of top dogs in North America?
Well, TSM and Immortals does look really strong, but they dropped a lot of games as well. Like for example, TSM lost to P1 yesterday, and yeah, like teams like over time they became stronger and stronger, and like I'll say us CLG became stronger as well. So in playoffs, I think we will have better chance than in regular split. So we're pretty confident on facing TSM or Immortals in finals.
Well, it's good to hear that your continued improvement is going well. I want to ask about more you as a player, because a few weeks ago we had an interview saying that you guys weren't as used to playing around the mid lane. You weren't used to being the hard carry. It's much more about Darshan or about Stixay or back in the day Doublelift. Talk to me about how you sort of prepared to be one of the bigger carry forces on CLG. It's been more about you.
Uh, Honestly, like I'll say everyone can carry, but it's just like about how we can like help that guy to carry. And CLG lacked those like kind of thing in mid lane, and that's what we've been working throughout like the weeks. So right now we're getting pretty comfortable on like pressuring mid, snowballing mid, and like yeah, like I'm not winning like the lane by myself. Whenever I win, it's always because of like Jake ganking, like Xmeta ganking for me, or Zach Afroma getting vision for me. So it's because of all the support that I have.
Well, the team has been working for you guys. Jay, Huhi, congratulations on the win. Congrats on locking in playoffs. We'll see you next week, and we'll see you hopefully in Canada as well. Thanks very much. And now, let's toss it to the analysts.
Thank you very much, Freak, CLG, Huhi, and the whole squad securing their playoff spot in a 2-0 victory here over Echo Fox. And diving straight into this game, too, we've got to start in Champion Select because Echo Fox choosing to run the exact same composition from Game 1 back in Game 2. And to just as little success.
I mean, of course, just as little success. Not only are they kind of, we know CLG are going to be the better team, but you also look at the things that Fox had picked that already are kind of a weakness. I'm not the biggest fan of the Soraka. Doesn't offer a lot of proactive play. I could see it in Game 1 potentially because of the Cassiopeia, but this time there isn't that kind of chain mage which needs a lot of spells to come out. Malzahar kind of presses Q, presses E, and he's done after W as well. So it's like not too much from it, but from there, Fox just again find themselves in a situation where the early game is gone and they can't get the right farm onto the right people.
Well, but here's the thing. You've got that Aurelia into Gnar matchup, something that we've been hammering for weeks now. Aurelia is the counter to Gnar. You don't want to go head first into an Aurelia. But what happens? Darshan solo kills the Aurelia at 8 minutes into the game.
Ultimately, it is a skill matchup, and unfortunately, KFO did not have the skill to win that matchup. Darshan just being the better player in there, and it is one champion that if you slip up as Aurelia, Gnar can kill you. Ideally, Aurelia would never put herself in that situation, but it happened and he's able to capitalize on it. And with the mallet completed and cleaver, it's just really hard from that point on.
Gets himself out to an early lead. We saw very easily 2-0-2 scoreline. Of course, that continued on throughout the game. But I do want to jump into our first replay. 10 minutes in, we got a roam from Huhi to the top lane here. Gonna be a 2-0 for CLG.
And at this point, you can see Huhi's already moving out on the map. It looks kind of bad at first, perhaps, for Xmithy as he's caught out here. forced to kind of get his way out of this, but Darshan's still there, is imposing enough with the rest of his Mega Gnar bar still full, gets the ulti down, in comes Huhi. And again, it's just a numbers game at this point. There's no real way of Froggen getting there in time.
Well,
to
the real question mark is that there's a play happening in the top side, and then Froggen's response is roaming towards the bottom side.
Yeah.
So you have two people in the top side trying to fight, where you have Victor just roaming back and forth the lane, kind of patrolling. All right, Dragon's safe, guys. No one's taking Dragon. They're dying to it, and it just makes no sense. Why not just use that numbers advantage, as you mentioned? You want to have multiple people together to enforce that play, make it that much quicker and easier to convert onto something. The fact that there's just no communication between Fox's solo laners and the jungler is just really troubling from their, now that they're 10th place.
And I think my favorite thing about that is Darshan then TP's bottom after that entire exchange, and okay, ultimately ends up getting punished with a 5-man, but like for another minute and a half, bottom tower stays, like Froggen's been doing nothing almost in the bottom lane, and they just aren't capitalizing with that kind of play in time.
Yeah, they were able to hold that bot turret for a bit, but as you mentioned, the dive did come through from Echo Fox on a 5v3. They do pick up a couple kills. Now I want to push us ahead, though, because we've got Malzahar in the game, right? We have a Malzahar handed over, first pick to Huhi, 1v3, 18 minutes in the game, spreading the Malzahar love to everybody who he's doing it here.
And it's like, watch out, he's got space shades, and just like goes off by himself, 1v3. Look at all the little voidlings. I mean, this is going into a fenced area with just a whole lot of dogs that are a little rabid. And
He did get assisted by the Ash Arrow.
Sure, but I mean, there's just so many little voidlings, and that's just the power of the pick. And I love that he's adding that P1 element, a little taunt
A
dance.
little bit of the, yeah. And
You know,
Nori
it's a
does it, you gotta throw it back at him, right?
It is a psychological game. After all, there is a lot of mental aspects of this game that are overlooked, and one of them is letting Malzahar go through.
Exactly.
Very obnoxious champion, just does so much disengage and, you know, zoning in team fights. But the real, like, maybe disappointing thing for Echo Fox in this game is, for a player named Hard, this was a pretty soft game from him. He just constantly kept getting caught. 0-4 at one point. The game started with that, with the hook, and he just never got into it. Was down CS the entire game, and on Rek'Sai just had no presence, which, like, that's the one thing that Rek'Sai can offer almost over every single jungler is map presence. But if you're losing, lanes are losing, never going to get in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Player of the game going to Huhi on that Malzahar, 11, 1, and 8. Could have gone to Darshan, too, for the solo kill and what he was doing on that Gnar, but ultimately great performances out of both solo laners. 90% kill participation from Huhi, manhandling the mid lane.
And we were wondering what makes Malzahar so good, and we came to the conclusion this champ is actually really easy. He's got no skill shots.
We
okay?
did. We had a whole discussion about
this. This champ is really easy. So you have CC, 90% damage reduction, no skill shots except your Q, and as you mentioned, even if you miss it, it still creates a zone.
Yeah.
So you can't walk through. It's like, oh, it's in the wrong position, but you gotta hold on. You can't go through it. It's in a terrible spot. All right, who's ever near this area has to avoid it. And
You
if
can
get hit,
always
you're
cast the Q defensively
Yep.
to basically say to the enemy, you have to pass through it to get to me. And so ultimately, yeah, a pretty safe champion once he gets through those first few levels of his game where he definitely
Which is a
could
piece
struggle.
of cake for him,
Exactly.
yeah.
And as the meta is currently, most mid laners can make it through level 4 pretty easily. So CLG picking up the victory here over Echo Fox. Like I said, they secured their playoff position. This also does mean that Echo Fox is 100% the 10th place team in the LCS. They will be playing Team Liquid Academy in the first round of the promotion
Piglet
tournament.
versus Keith, that's what I'm talking about. If you've been watching before, Keith came in as a kind of motivational replacement for Piglet before, and now it's the ultimate showdown between the Toucan and Piglet. I think it's going to be super exciting. There's a lot on the match. There's a lot of aggression in this match.
And here's the thing, not only do they have to win that match, they then will have to play the 8th place team from the LCS. So we don't necessarily know who that is going to be just yet, but 2 best-of-5s just to get back into the spring split. They've got their work cut out for them. And of course, they still have another week of regular season play to maybe shore up some of those weaknesses that they have moving into the promotion tournament. Now, what would any of those, would you say? Oh, well, as I say that, I'm being told that we're welcoming the members from our NALCS 1 stream, Cloud9 taking the victory over Phoenix 1 in 2 games as well. So very dominant series across the board today. We just finished actually wrapping up Fox versus CLG, in which CLG took the series 2-0. Fox is now our guaranteed 10th place. CLG have locked themselves into the playoffs. Did you want to close anything out on that series?
You were wondering what you would do for
Well,
Fox.
I was going to say with Fox, I mean, it's specifically when we consider the likes of TLA and that team, they're the first matchup. What specifically does Fox need to shore up in order to take on this challenger
Well,
squad?
I mean, this is a tsunami that they got to bring a whole lot of things to this table to actually be able to keep up. But I just think that their problem lies in wave management. They've just resulted to this crutch of wave clear for days and wait for the other team to kind of make the mistake. When you have just so much wave clear, it's a lot easier to dictate the pace of the game, but they don't actually know how to manage the waves. The top laner and bottom lane just aren't synced together, where in reality, there's a lot of synergy between these two roles in terms of managing the waves and lane assignment, and it's just not there at all. Mid lane just has to stay middle the entire time, and if they don't fix this problem, a team like TLA is going to have no problem putting Piglet in the carry position and snowball real hard.
Exactly.
And this is something that's symptomatic, and this isn't a blame game here in this scenario, but like this is symptomatic of Froggen's team's playstyle over the last 2 years. Same happened on Elements, the same happened on teams before it, is that if the other individual components as well can't step up to the same level, Froggen's laning is still as good as it ever was. You know, he's always putting up the stats. The problem is he's soaking a lot of resources on his own, and if the rest of the team haven't caught up to the basics as everybody else in the league, wave management, lane swaps, all of these things, then you can't do enough as an individual to carry yourself through.
All right, so plenty of work for the Echo Fox squad to do while looking towards that summer promotion tournament, or spring promotion tournament, rather. Moving to the next split, CLG going to be happy to have made it into playoffs. They still got a couple more games to play in the regular season. I want to now transition over to Cloud9 versus Phoenix 1. Cloud9 picked up the second game here to close out the series 2-0, as we can see in 28 minutes, 30 seconds. So another pretty quick game for them. What's important to note as well, though, this victory does put a little bit of separation between them and the next teams on the ladder. So sitting comfortably in that third place spot right now, this is a very nice victory for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And P1 kind of a little distraught with getting the picks that they wanted. The composition's a little bit different from what they have. We've criticized him for just being kind of like a press R and go. Olaf, not that kind of champion. Right. You know, a little bit too much on that front. And right off the bat, they kind of make a little bit of an uncharacteristic move that we'll get to in the meantime.
Yeah, we'll get to that. I want to let you jump in first, Stress.
Yeah, and specifically about champion stack, because coming into it, we were like, okay, well, the Braum's not going to be there, the Malzahar shouldn't be there either.
That was our expectation.
Yeah, C9 bans Sivir, and I'm like, okay, well, maybe they just don't want P1 to get a lead and then just hit R and go for it, like you're talking about, Crumbs. But very surprising. I like the Malzahar priority. I like the Braum priority in the second rotation. The Olaf is the curious one to us. Tristana Mash plays it. We've seen it before.
Yeah, I don't love it, but he plays it. So.
I just don't see what the Olaf on its own actually offers here. Normally you'd see it with the Sivir, the Karma gets it into the fight.
Yeah.
Hecarim in that situation still isn't a great pick, but has the engage. We were talking a little bit about other picks like the Nidalee if you want to dominate the early game.
Right.
I just don't feel like Olaf had enough here.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. They kind of picked themselves into a weird position because they themselves were the ones that pinched the jungle pool by last banning Gragas and then not taking the Rek'Sai, allowing Meteos to grab it. So, in a sense, didn't do themselves much favors in champs. Like, now I want to dive into the game, Crumbs. 4 minutes into the game. Do you want to set it up?
Yeah,
or
I'll set it up. So this is going to be right after the lane swap where Olaf is going to finish in the top side, and they have two options. You can either continue jungling to the bottom side or look to make a play in the top side. They're going to go to make a play because they see the dual lane outside. They feel comfortable taking the 2v2. The reason why you don't make a play with your top laner is just because of what's about to happen. You're going to have the double TP advantage from Cloud9, and they're going to be able to just immediately TP as soon as they commit, and they're going to just get surprised. Another reason why you don't go for this kind of play is because the dual lane is going to have summoner advantage, and just because of that play, while it might look good at first, okay, you got first blood, you blow so many summoners, and there's just no gain from P1 that's actually worth it because these champions want to be able to set the tempo in the swap, and it's just too much loss from this situation. So while it is a rather aggressive play that you would want to look for if you have a TP into the mid laner, that would be the only instance where you're going to go for this. But this is just the reason why you see the top laners just back off, catch the wave as much as they can possible, TP to the bottom side and help with the push, as opposed to just trying to go head on into the push and obviously get killed like that.
Again, so that's still some of the issues that we see with these younger, greener squads is the fact that they recognize that, hey, there is the possibility of a play here, but not necessarily taking into account the fact that we don't have a TP because I'm going to my own TP lane.
On the bright side, this is kind of like, if you were to rate macro plays, this would be like in the middle to higher tier of what a macro play is like, right? The things that you have to consider, as opposed to the sheer basics that bottomer teams like Fox is facing, which is just like the regular lane assignment and actual wave management. So it does show more experience with macro play from P1. That's really nice to see out of a team that that started 809.
Just not quite TSM level, right? We're
Exactly.
just not quite to the
Yes.
top tier yet. Now I want to push this ahead to 20 minutes into the game. Sneaky's going to pick up another pentakill on the season here. He's been a monster when it comes to cleaning up fights on the gym.
Yeah, chalk it up because this fight, again, instantly at the start of this, Jensen gets engaged upon. He has his ultimate here, and Sneaky's got so much room for the entirety of this fight, and things just keep playing into his way. First of all, Zig gets pulled towards him for the first kill. Nice setup for this, and Mash is going to end up jumping in and getting caught by so much damage that's going to come out from the Zilean and from the rest of the team that it's an easy pickup, and he isn't able to snowball the jumps continuously. You can see exhausted as well. Out comes the 4th kill from it, and from there, he can chase Pyrian down super easy.
But now, correct me if I'm wrong, Crumbs. This was a fight you believe that Phoenix One should have
Yes,
been able
so
to win.
Phoenix One should have won that fight because I like, while Zilean into Malzahar does sound like a good idea, obviously you can resurrect whoever gets Malzahar ulted. The problem was that they did not chain the CC properly. When you get the Malzahar ultimate and there's a Braum passive onto the Zilean, the biggest priority is going to be CC lock the Zilean so he does not get the Chrono Shift off. They do not blow all their auto attacks on them. They kind of try to weave in the spells. And when you're with a Braum, you want to just attack first, spells later. It is so important to get that stun off. And because of that, the fight gets delayed. Zilean's able to just get lanterned away and is being able to provide so much to the front line eventually with the bomb and zoning as well that it just goes chaotic for P1. So it was a really good attempt from them, but ultimately backfired.
The execution just not quite there. Now that Zilean into Malzahar, it happened to work out in this game, and Jensen's going to pick up player of the game, 8-0-11 on the Zilean. Of course, he picked up a quadra kill right after that fight. We're not going to see that, but Jensen picks up the quadra right after Sneaky with the penta, 19 KDA from that Zilean deathless game. Solid play.
Yeah, pretty
Timeless
rare.
performance.
Timeless performance, if you will.
Pretty rare you have a pentakill and it's not player of the game. I mean,
That's true. That's
obviously-
also true.
Yeah, I'm like, wow, pentakill and it doesn't get it. But obviously, a lot can be said for how much Jensen did. You talked about turning around the early fights with that teleport and that kind of thing. So certainly a deserved one as well. But a lot of people contentious. We've talked about it before. Could have been both.
Now, if we do the kind of zoom out macro picture look, Cloud9, as I mentioned, is now securely or solidly, let's say, in that 3rd position. Doesn't mean they're guaranteed to be locked there for playoffs, but they're putting that separation between them and the rest of the teams. I actually want to talk more about Phoenix One because they're sitting down there right near Energy, not looking good for them. They're not going to be able to make playoffs, but they're still jockeying for position when it comes to that promotion tournament. Are you seeing what you need to see out of this team to say that they are improving, at least at some rate, over the past few weeks and into the promotion tournament?
Yeah, absolutely. I do think that we're seeing what we need to be seeing out of this team to actually say that they are out of the top echelon of the bottom teams. But the one concern would be the actual drafting. It's gotten a little bit sloppy here today because we know exactly what's been working for them. They've been running it over and over and over, and that's what they've actually been able to get some of these wins that were unexpected. But a surprising kind of pick that's not catering to their strength that we always know, press R and engage, which is perfectly fine to have that kind of style, but you're just deviating from it at the odd situations, especially on a match that if you can actually win this game, you keep your playoff dreams alive is a little questionable for me.
All right, well, that's going to conclude all of our series for the day. Now it's time to talk player of the game. This week, 4 players grabbed multiple honors. Huhi, Inori, Reignover, and Stixxay all grabbed themselves 2 mentions alongside a dozen other players who took 1 each.
Stixxay's got a makeover.
Oh, that's a good point. Not even the right team. Anyway, now for a look at the overall split leaderboard, though. Bjergsen still remains king of the hill. 10-time player of the game honors this split. Hot on his heels, though, are Double Up Phoenix, Cooney, and Pobelter, as well as Wild Turtle, who hold 8 awards and have their last shot to surpass Bjergsen next week.
Pretty cool looking at this comparatively to Europe and the
Yeah.
positions. In Europe, it's like jungler, like everybody. And then I believe there's like Knight from Giants. Because
Okay.
in their wins, he's been instrumental. So seeing Bjergsen double it like 80 carry, like pretty cool to see different roles in there.
I like the acronym, the POG, the PogChamp now. Player of the game.
They're absolutely PogChamp. We should have thought about that before we titled it Player of the Game. Well, Week 8 is all wrapped up, so let's see how the teams stack up. TSM equalized today, drawing into a first-place tie with Immortals. Their match next week will decide first place. Cloud9 remains in 3rd. CLG and Liquid have clinched playoffs and are tied in 4th. Envy is still fighting their way into playoffs, but have 6th place for now, and they're followed by Apex in 7th with Energy and Phoenix One tied for 8th. And Echo Fox, of course, they round out the standings in that 10th place. Now a sneak peek at the League of Legends esports content coming your way in Week 9. It all begins on Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific with Primetime League. Catch up on everything going on across all the pro leagues and get set for the last week of regular season LCS competition. Friday, the North American LCS comes back with a blockbuster first match, Immortals and TSM face-off for control of first place and the top seed in the playoffs. Now, the European LCS is back on a special schedule this weekend starting at Saturday, 12 p.m. Central European time. Tune in to catch G2 taking on Vitality, followed by Origin's match with Splice. That's a lot of information. Hopefully you internalize it all because there are some switch-ups in the schedule, so check lolesports.com, double-check it, triple-check it in case you want to find the matches
Or
that
just
you're
watch
most,
esports
or just
every
watch
day.
all
Every day.
Just leave Twitch
Esports all
open
day.
on our channels and it'll just play when you'll just hear it in your headphones. Either way, I want to talk now about that match of the week showdown that's coming up on Friday between TSM and Immortals. Couldn't have asked for it to play out any better. Both teams coming in with the same exact record here. Gonna decide
Thank
that
you,
top
P1.
seed. Yeah, thank you, P1. Gonna decide that top seed, that number 1 seed going into playoffs. What are you guys' feeling about how this matchup might go down?
I feel like as long as TSM can get their draft back to, well, what we saw from today, which now I'm a little bit more confident on, I still think that they should be stronger. I've seen a lot more consistency out of TSM week on week than out of Immortals. So I still think Immortals are playing like a bit of a funky style, but maybe with the Fiora.
I'm all about the funk, though. I'm all about Immortals here. I actually think Immortals has a good shot at this one because they do play that wild style. They're all chaotic. The games are bloody. They're giving up a whole lot of kills, but shockingly, the games still end in 20 minutes.
Well,
no matter what they keep doing, the games still go their way, which is really cool to see out of a team, be able to compose themselves objective-wise.
I mean, I really think that this matchup is going to come down to which game gets played. Is the TSM game played or is the Immortals game played, right? Can Immortals force TSM to play their chaotic, funky, combative League of Legends, or can TSM rein them in, for lack of a better word, right? And really say, no, we're going to play a rigid game of League of Legends in which we're
So
going
they're the
to,
vaults and Immortals is the funk.
Yes, very much. There you go. To continue your music analogy, sure, why not, Crumbs? All right, well, that's going to do it for our show. So on behalf of myself, Stress, and Crumbs, our casters, and the entire live broadcast crew, thank you for watching, and we'll see you guys next week.
I'm going back to Europe. There were no ties.